Cover 2 Podcast live on OC Rock Radio. I'm Nick Nina.
I'm Jared Smith.
And here we go, Jared. The World Series has finally started. The Dodgers are in it. It's Dodgers and Astros. It was a great game one last night. I enjoyed it. I'm wearing my Dodger jersey in studio today.
Dodger pride.
I have to, man. The Dodgers are impressing me. They've made me super happy this playoff season. And what a game it was last night. Again, the Dodgers keep their roll up of wins, and Justin Turner with a couple big plays, Kershaw with a great game. We'll get into that. We're also going to get into the rest of the series. We'll also talk a little bit about the NFL and talk about some of the bigger college football games from last weekend and this weekend, because there's a couple good ones. So let's start with game one. Very quick game, only about 2 hours and 20-something minutes. Kershaw dominated 11 strikeouts, I believe only 2 hits. The bullpen came up, mopped it up, and the Dodgers had good enough hitting to win the game. It just seemed like another Dodger playoff game, didn't it, Jared?
It did, and for all the grief that I've given Kershaw as far as his playoff performances have gone, he came out and, not to say that he proved me wrong, but he proved why he's the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. Completely dominant, going 7 innings of almost shutout. Almost a shutout performance for him. Gave up those 2 runs in the 6th, but it was really dominant, and that's what the Dodgers have to lean on, is their pitching and then their bullpen kind of closing the game out. So it kind of went how I expected. I was not expecting kind of a 8 to 9 run game. I was, especially with these 2 pitchers, Keuchel and Kershaw going, I was really expecting a low scoring game, which we saw. And it was really just about who's going to come up with the better timely hitting. And we saw that the Dodgers and Turner, again, man, just give him the MVP, the postseason MVP award Turner, right now. Yeah. I'm sorry. Even if the Dodgers lose, which, I would still give it to Turner. And I know that's almost unheard of to do, but I'm serious. For how
it's
clutch,
like when LeBron was in the finals, and they wanted to give it to him.
For how clutch of hitting and just his overall play has been in this postseason, he to me is easily the Dodgers' most valuable player so far in this postseason.
Yeah, no, he's been ridiculous. I remember me and my brother were watching, and even that at bat in the 6th inning, he was down 1-2 and hadn't looked good the entire game so far up until he hit the home run. It was a high slider. He turned on it. I do believe if it wasn't a super hot day, if it was maybe a little darker at night too, and you get that marine layer coming from the ocean, that ball doesn't go out. But you know what? You take advantage of the situation. The ball was flying in Dodger Stadium yesterday. A lot of balls hit hard because of that super hot weather, 103 degrees at first pitch. But it doesn't matter. I mean, Turner just keeps coming up clutch. He's becoming one of the best hitters in the game, along with guys like Joey Votto and Daniel Murphy, guys that every single time they come up, you're like, well, I don't think they're going to strike out. They'll do something in this at-bat, and that's kind of how I see it with him. And Chris Taylor, another big game. He hit a home run, the first pitch the Dodgers saw in the World Series, literally almost hit it out of Dodger Stadium. Both those guys have impressed the entire playoffs, and they keep going. Yeah, no,
I think the fact that he hit that home run right off the bat, that just had to have jacked up that team, and to get the crowd going. If you're Kershaw and you're like, oh, okay, boom, right there, I get a lead right in the first inning, I think that has to give you so much confidence going the rest of the way. And obviously, it's not like Kershaw needs a 5 or 6 run lead. You give him 1 or 2 runs, and he's so dominant that even if you're the Astros, like we saw last night, you're not going to be able to come back from that. So, no, the fact that they were able to jump on the Astros and get that 1-0 lead early, I think was really, really big for them.
I think, and the other thing is, too, you mentioned that you don't have to give a Kershaw a lot of run support. I think he's only lost 1 game in his entire career when he's given 4 runs of support.
Really?
Game. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's a ridiculous stat. It's like 90 wins and 1 loss or something like that. So Kershaw, that's why they call him the best pitcher in the game. And he pitched like that last night. It wasn't playoff Kershaw. Playoff Kershaw, like you've mentioned a lot on the podcast, has been sort of disappointing the later he's gotten games. He's given up big home runs. I gave him a home run yesterday, but it was more good hitting by Alex Bregman than it was a bad pitch by Kershaw. But it just seemed like last night he was more of like in a May or June form. Kershaw didn't actually, it was funny enough, it was hot enough to be May and June last night too. Maybe that helped him a little bit, but his curveball was on, his slider was on, his fastball was hitting his spots. Kershaw was as perfect as you could get last night, only giving up 2 hits and really not letting anybody go on. And that's rare for the Astros because they're a team that gets on base and doesn't strike out, and Kershaw struck out 11 guys last night.
He did. Yeah, no, like I said, I was not surprised by how Kershaw played. I do want to touch a minute on Dallas Keuchel and his Houston Astros
Another
team.
great game by Dallas Keuchel.
It was a great, I don't want to take anything away from him and or what the Houston pitching staff was able to do, because like I said, they only gave up 3 runs and they were in that game up until the very end. So this is going to be a back and forth series. I think, I'm not sure, did we do predictions last show?
I think, well, the way that the timing worked out, I think we predicted who we thought we'd be in, but we could do a full prediction.
That's right.
Now,
So what I'm saying is, I think right now we probably both have the Dodgers taking the series, and we'll get into that a little bit more on later in the show. But just because the Astros lost his first game, I have no doubt that they can easily come back and win game 2. And when they go back to Houston, they are a very, very strong home team. So
absolutely.
This team is by no chance out of it, and especially more likely if they go to a game 5, I believe they'll get Keuchel back again, because more likely he'll go on 3 days rest or 4 days rest.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm guessing if they're down, let's say if they somehow are down 3-0, you change the dynamic a little bit, and you might have your best pitchers thrown in the game in a dire situation. But I would expect Keuchel to come back against Kershaw in Game 5. Kershaw is scheduled for Game 5 as well. I would expect that same exact matchup. But it's interesting. You mentioned, I agree with you that this game does not prove anything for this series. Maybe it proved that Kershaw's going to pitch really well in this World Series, that he maybe has it going. But this essentially was 2 great pitchers pitching 2 great games, and one guy got 1 extra good hit for the Dodgers, and it was Justin Turner. Other than that, really everyone else didn't do much in these games. I mean, Corey Seager had a couple hits. He had a good game too. But really, Verlander could come back tonight, Wednesday night, and just dominate the Dodgers and make it a 1-1 series. I said yesterday on social media that I thought the biggest game in this series is going to be Game 3, because Houston has not lost a home game in this playoffs. Neither have the Dodgers, but Houston specifically with that Yankees series that we saw. And we didn't get to talk about Game 7. We didn't get to talk about that Game 7. But Houston, being down 3-2, having lost 3 in a row to the Yankees, came back at home and won 2 consecutive games. That impressed me, and that made me a little more scared of the Astros facing the Dodgers. I think the biggest game is going to be Game 3 to see what the Dodgers can do in Houston. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I think the thing about this Houston Astros team is the fact that they don't get down on themselves. So even if they do come out and lose this Game 2 tonight and go down 0-2, the fact that they're going home and the fact that they know they're such a good home team, I think they're not going to lay down. They're going to continue to fight. And listen, this is the World Series. It's 7 games. And I believe, if am I not mistaken, that Houston's going to get 3 straight?
3 straight, yes.
3 straight at home. So that's a big opportunity for them to jump back in, if not take the lead on the series. So by no chance, even if the Dodgers do win Game 2 tonight, is this series over. And listen, I do like Rich Hill, and I think he's a very, very good pitcher. I am going to give it to Justin Verlander tonight, and I think he's going to come
against him in this playoffs.
Listen, if I'm Verlander, I'm coming out and I'm saying, unless I give up 5-6 runs and I just don't have my stuff, leave me out there. I'm going to go 8. I'm going to try to go the full game if I'm him, because, listen, he's your second best, if not your best pitcher on your team. Obviously, Keuchel had a great game last night. So if I'm Verlander, I'm putting this game on my back, and I'm saying, let me go unless I'm just giving up too many hits or something, but leave me in there. I want to win this game for my team. That's the mentality that I would have if I were Verlander.
Well,
tonight.
Justin Verlander is going to be humming it tonight too. He's going to be going out there. He's going to be hitting high 90s. His curveball is going to be working as well. I agree with you. I would expect the Astros actually to win this game too and really put pressure on the Dodgers. The Dodgers, I wouldn't be surprised if they win and go up 2-0 in this series, because they've just been so good at home, even better than the Astros in the way of the way they've dominated games at home as well. But it's hard to go against Justin Verlander, and Rich Hill has been a good pitcher. I just think this is going to be another low-scoring game, and the Astros will get timely hits this time. Because they won't have to deal with such a perfect pitcher in Clayton Kershaw. Verlander's been the best pitcher in this playoffs so far, and I don't expect him just to flub up and give up a bunch of runs. Now, the Dodgers have been able to do that to some good pitchers. Verlander's been a little different, so I would expect the Astros to win this game too as well. Now, so another thing you mentioned about Justin Verlander going 7 or 8 innings is the Astros bullpen. I'm glad you brought that up. That is probably the Achilles heel of the Astros in this series, and one of the reasons a lot of people are giving it to the Dodgers was the Dodgers bullpen has been stellar. The Astros bullpen has not been stellar. It's not even been that good. So I agree with you. I think Verlander needs to go a long way. What do you have to say about the Astros bullpen so far in this playoffs?
Yeah, no, like you said, it's been their Achilles heel, and it's not something that they've been able to rely on. And I think that's one of the reasons why they traded and got Verlander in the first place, was because they wanted to have another ace to go along with Dallas Keuchel, so they wouldn't have to necessarily rely on their pitching a little bit more in the playoffs. And I think you can agree with me with this. When it comes to the playoff baseball, the managers obviously have a little bit of a shorter leash on their starting pitchers for the most part, because listen, you go down 2 or 3 runs in a game, it's not like, oh, okay, well, we're in a 4-game series and we're in the middle of the regular season, right?
Yeah, no.
Obviously this playoffs is win or go home.
And Kershaw would have gotten all 9 last night if this was the regular season.
Very true. So yeah, I think the fact that they traded for Verlander because they knew that their bullpen wasn't as strong, and they said, okay, hey, listen, this is a guy who has the experience. We know that he can easily go 7 innings when he has his stuff going, and he can potentially throw a complete game and save our bullpen, not have to use all of our bullpen arms, save them for another night, or save them for when we do need them. So I think that was one of the best pickups of the season in general, even though it was very, very late in the season. But the fact that they got him to have that 1-2 punch with Keuchel is a big deal, and I think it's going to show tonight.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching MLB Network before the game, the coverage before the game. I was listening to Peter Gammon, his longtime ESPN writer. Now he's an MLB Network writer. He was saying that if you look back on it, the way Verlander's pitched in this series, and if the Astros do end up winning this World Series, that pickup of Justin Verlander might be one of the best of all time mid-season, because of how well he's done, how much he's dominated with this Houston Astros team. This guy's legit. He's coming in. He's going to want to win tonight, and it's going to be a great game, too, and a great game 5 or 6 whenever he pitches again. And that's why I think when I made a prediction initially just last night, I said I thought it'd be Dodgers in 6. I'm going to hold to that because they won game 1. Verlander's the one guy that could make a difference and change that opinion of me, because he's going to pitch game 2. If he wins tonight, that changes me thinking it's going to be 2-0. And if they go to game 6 and he wins game 6, obviously that makes it to a game 7. Oh, yeah. So Verlander is the biggest player in this series. What he does is going to be really, really big for the Astros.
Yeah, no, just for personal reasons, I hope this game does go at least 6, because I do want to see Verlander pitch again.
You're right.
And like I said, I hope, because I'm not necessarily a fan of either of these two teams, I want to just see a great playoff matchup. But I hope this does go 6, potentially 7. Game 7s, who doesn't love a game 7? But if this does go 6, then we will see hopefully Hill and Verlander again. Definitely we would see Keuchel and Kershaw again. So this series is about pitching. I'm gonna throw not somewhat of a curveball, but I think tonight the Astros hitting is gonna come up a little bit more clutch. Mm-hmm. Obviously Hill is not Kershaw. He is a very, very good pitcher, but I think Springer and Altuve are going to come out, and I'm going to say that Altuve gets a home run tonight.
Nice.
I'm going out on a limb. I think the hitting for the Astros is going to, along with Verlander, is going to be the reason why they win the game. I'm going to say the Astros are going to get 4 to 5 runs, which is going to be plenty enough for Verlander. He's going to go at least 7, more likely 8 innings, and I think the Astros are going to get the win tonight.
Well, another good point, too, about the hitting. If you remember last week, I actually brought up that the Astros hitting needed to improve. Mm-hmm. Last night they did.
No.
And I actually brought up 2 things. I said the top 2 hitters in their lineup need to play better. They moved Alex Bregman up to 2 last night. I really liked that. He hit a home run last night. He actually had a good game. He also hit a ball really hard off Kenley Jansen in the 9th inning, too. Almost got them a base hit to get a tying run to the plate. The problem is George Springer at the top. I believe George Springer struck out 4 times last night and didn't look close on any of them. There needs to be a switch. He needs to figure it out, because if you don't have your leadoff hitter going, look at what Chris Taylor's doing for the Dodgers. Every single at bat, Taylor's putting pressure on the pitcher. George Springer is doing the exact opposite of that, and that needs to change. And I expect it to tonight. I would expect him to take more pitches this game and have better at-bats, because he needs to, because they have not been good at the top 2 of that order.
Do you think Springer had a bad game because of Kershaw, or do you think he's just in a slump himself?
I think he's flustered a little bit. I think he's this is the first time he's ever been in these really big playoff games, and he's not taking the pressure well so far. Cody Bellinger hasn't been that good in these playoffs either. It's kind of the same thing. Bellinger's had some big hits. Springer has too, but lately in the NLCS and the World Series, at least this game 1, he's been terrible at the plate. And I think Josh Reddick needs to improve as well, because he's bat second against right-handed pitchers. you only see one of those in this Dodgers series more than likely. So you're going to see Alex Bregman. I think he'll make a big impact. I do agree with you. I think Jose Altuve has a good game as well. But Springer, he needs to play well because you need to have the top of the order guy not striking out every single time. You need to be getting on base. So I would expect that to improve well. Like I said, I think we both think the Astros are going to win this game tonight. Let's go. Let's dive more into the rest of the series now. Let's make more of a prediction for the World Series. I'll let you start.
I am going to go just going to the end. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 7, and I think that's more. I realistically, if I was a betting man, I would probably say Dodgers in 6. But because, like I said, like I mentioned a minute ago, I do love Game 7s.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that Game 7 matchup. I want to see if, potentially would they. I don't think they would, but would Kershaw go on super short rest? Who would they start? That whole just win all or nothing scenario. But I will, because the Dodgers do have home field advantage. I'm going to take them in 7.
Yeah, I'm going to pick them in 6. I'm going to go with your more betting
realistic
prediction there. I said it last night. Nothing about this game really changed my opinion. I do think the Dodgers, whether they go 1-1 tonight, they will win a game in Houston as well. I think they'll win 2 games in Houston.
Really?
I think they'll end up beating Verlander in that last game, because that's what you have to do. If you want to win World Series, you have to be the best guys. And I think in order for them to win this World Series, they have to beat Verlander once once at least. And I think that's more likely going to happen in Game 6 than it will in Game 2. I think Verlander will be ready to pitch tonight, like I've mentioned. I've talked a lot about him. So I'd expect Dodgers in 6, but this is going to be a good series. I mean, being a Dodger fan, you kind of lose sight of the other team. It's more of, oh my God, the Dodgers have played really well. I can't believe it. They're this close to a World Series. But when you actually look at the series as an analyst, a point of view, wow, this is a really, really good matchup. The lineups are both really good. You pretty much have stars throughout the entire lineup. The pitching staffs are going to be, 1A versus 1A, 1B versus 1B. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is a great series, and I'm excited to see the rest of it. More than likely, the series could be over by our next podcast, or it could be preparing for Game 7. So we want to get our whole prediction out there. It's going to be a great series. We both expect the Dodgers to win. Jared says in 7. I say in 6. Nonetheless, it's going to be a great series. I can't wait to watch the rest of it in Game 2 tonight. We'll go to break real quick. We'll come back with some NFL news. But one of our teams really played well, and one of our other teams played absolutely horrendous this weekend. So we'll talk all about that on the other side of this quick break.
Went 7 out of 10 against the blitz. They're lined up as if they're coming after him, and they do. And he's in trouble. Wentz will be escaping from the 18-yard line. How in the world did that happen? First down out to the 44-yard line.
Was he down? Where did he go? Amazing. He came out of a pile of bodies, and he's not down.
Nope.
When you look at the Patriots, I don't care how good the Patriots are. Right. Since being down 28-3 in the Super Bowl to the Atlanta Falcons, they outscored the Atlanta Falcons 54-0. Come on now.
Is that a lot?
Come on now.
That's embarrassing.
54-0. That's so embarrassing. It ain't even anything to laugh about. I mean, that's embarrassing. You're the reigning defending NFC champions, and you get outscored by one team over the span of 6 quarters, 54-0. That's just an absolute disgrace.
It was a great day for the Rams today. I can't say enough about our players and our coaching staff, getting them ready to go. There was potentially a lot of distractions over these last 10 days where you travel to Jacksonville on Friday, stay out there on Thursday, then come out to London. But great fan reception, really, second year being here in a row, different atmosphere, different energy. But, it was outstanding. We really loved being here, and it was a good win for our team.
We're back on OC Rock Radio with the Cover 2 podcast. Once again, I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nick Nina.
And it's time for a little NFL talk. Like Nick had mentioned before we ended our last segment, one of our teams last week played very well, while the other got blown out. So, Nick, would you like to start with the team that got blown out?
I will start with the team that got blown out.
Okay, and that would be the lonely Arizona Cardinals, who flew all the way over across the pond to London and got absolutely whooped. Nick, whooped. There's no other way to put it, really.
I'm taking full responsibility.
Really?
We got our butts kicked, man. Now, we did get Carson Palmer in the game, get hurt in the game. Didn't matter. He was already not even playing well. The Cardinals totally disappointed every single Arizona Cardinal fan. Okay, you go over to London, you get prepared for a week, and you lose 33-0 to the Rams, a division rival. Normally, I'm okay with losing the Rams, but we've actually lost to the Rams every year at least once because their defense is so good and it's always low-scoring games. I'm not okay with losing to the Rams 33-0 and making Jared freaking Goff look good. It's the one thing I don't like watching is Jared Goff play good because I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but he's starting to prove me a little wrong. There's just something fundamentally wrong with this Cardinals team half of the games of the season. It seems like every single time they have a big win, they get killed the next game or they lose a big game. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. The defense played terrible in the second half. The offense, once Carson Palmer got hurt, was a non-factor. The rushing game, 25 yards. Adrian Peterson didn't make a difference, even though he made a huge difference the week before. This game really, to be honest, wasn't about the Cardinals being bad. It was more about the Rams impressing me. The Rams are starting to become a team that I legitimately think is going to be a playoff team. With this division in the NFC West, and now with Carson Palmer out, you can almost take the Cardinals and obviously the 49ers out of the playoff picture. And the Seahawks haven't played that well this season either. So the Rams more likely will make the playoff team, or will make the playoffs this year. Jared, here's the question I wanted to ask you. Are the Rams for real, being obviously not involved with that game at all this weekend and not having a dog in the fight?
I think they are. And at towards the beginning of the season, the first 4 games of the year, I think it was still kind of feeling them out because last year they also started out 3-1.
Exactly, good point.
And then they kind of fell off the wagon. They did the same thing this year, and it was still kind of like, okay, let's pump the brakes. Let's wait and see. They still have a first-year head coach. This is really Jared Goff's first year being the full-time quarterback. Todd Gurley's obviously had a much better year, somewhat of a rejuvenated year than last year, but I was still a little hesitant. Like you mentioned, Carson Palmer went down early in this game, and that was a huge factor and one of the reasons why the Cardinals offense could not get any points on the board. But I also have to give a lot of credit to this Rams defense, and just their whole team, not even their defense, the way that they're playing as a unit. Like I said, that they have a nice balance. They're not asking Jared Goff to do too much. They're kind of just saying, hey, listen, just play within our system. Don't turn the ball over. Let's use our workhorse in Todd Gurley. And we have a great defense led by Wade Phillips. So I think they're using that to their advantage right now. And like I said, not asking Jared Goff to lose the game for them. And so far, he's doing a heck of a job. So, yeah, it's really going to be a two-headed race between them and Seattle. And right now, I think I would have to give it to the Rams based on how they're playing, but I'm not going to discount Seattle yet because there's still the second half of the season to go.
Seattle.
Seattle is Seattle,
and
their defense is always going to keep them in games. But right now, as we stand, I would have to give this division to the Rams.
Yeah, no, I would too. And this defense, what's funny about this is their defense hasn't really played that well this season. This was their first game where they really played a full game where they dominated and they did what they're supposed to do. Aaron Donald finally getting over being a holdout for the season. This Rams team now is not one-dimensional. It's got good special teams. It's got a great defense. It's now playing like a great defense, unlike how it was earlier in the season. And the offense is playing very good this season. And they're getting guys open and they're using all of their weapons. This Rams team, if I had to pick, I think they're going to be the NFC West champion this year. And God, who would have said that after last season? They looked like the worst team in the NFC West last year. All they do is add a couple pieces. They change their coaches, and look, they've changed the way. It's going to be interesting to watch in the rest of the season, though, because like we said, maybe this is just a really quick start for the Rams. Maybe this is just something like last year where they're going to catch teams off guard, and once teams start figuring it out, they're going to start losing some games. I don't see that happening. I think the biggest game for them the rest of the season is going to be their next game against the Seahawks. Because if they lost to the Seahawks in a very defensive battle last time, 16-10, I think if they were to beat the Seahawks the next game, that's big for them. Because that proves that they are clearly the best team in the NFC West. Because right now they're playing like it, and they're impressing a lot right now.
Yeah, they are, and I'm looking at their schedule right now, and to me, I only see 3 games on their schedule that are going to be tough in a sense, and that's going to be in 3 weeks when they have to, in 2 weeks when they have to go up against the Houston Texans.
That's going to be a good game.
And then they do play the Philadelphia Eagles in December, and then the following week they play at Seattle. I think those 3 games are really going to tell if this team is going to make the playoffs, because they still play the 49ers again. They still play the Cardinals again. This upcoming week, they're playing against the Giants, who are just awful. So I think that's pretty much an easy win for the Rams.
Blunt.
Just to be very blunt, awful. So really, I think there's only 3 games left on this schedule for the Rams that are going to be tough. And the rest of those games, they should win. Now, obviously, this is the NFL, and every week, you never know what's going to happen. But I think they're going to be favored in most of those games, except for potentially that Eagles game and the Seahawks game. But I think they're going to win enough games to more than likely win this division.
Yeah, if you want to see that sentiment, you never know what's going to happen. Just watch this Cardinals season so far, because I literally have no idea what team's going to come out. The team that plays really well against the Buccaneers, the team that beats the Colts and 49ers, or the teams that get killed by the Cowboys and the Rams. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to expect anymore. So as far as the Cardinals go, they get a break, and then they play the 49ers, so they could be 4-4 in 2 weeks. But there's not much hope, and for the Rams, a lot of hope. And a good team so far, and it's good for LA, because if you look at what LA sports is going on right now, you got Dodgers in the World Series, the Kings and Clippers are in first place, although the season's just started, and the Rams are in first place. So good for LA fans. Good to watch this team play well. Let's move on to the game of the week. This week it was Sunday Night Football, Super Bowl rematch, Falcons versus Patriots, and the Falcons didn't show up in this game. And maybe it was because it was very foggy and they couldn't see anything, and maybe they couldn't read their film. But
were the Patriots doing a little bit of...
maybe they put a little fog machine there in Foxborough. And you know what was interesting about that, too, is they actually tweeted something the next day showing there was fog still on the field, almost like they were showing that, hey, we didn't do anything about this.
It wasn't us, guys.
Yeah,
it
wasn't us. But Patriots win 23-7. They were in the game the entire time, or they dominated the game the entire time. I think at one point up 20-0, if I'm not mistaken, and this just looked like the good old Patriots. I think the Patriots once again are going to be one of the best teams in the AFC. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and whatever happened earlier in this season, you can kind of throw out the door, because Falcons are a good team and they dominated again.
They did. The Falcons have actually disappointed me somewhat this year, and
100%.
I don't think that they're the team that we expected, especially coming off of that Super Bowl appearance. I think they still have a little bit of a hangover. I was very surprised, not that the Patriots won, but the fact that the Falcons' offense could not get going at all. You have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. That's one of the best quarterback-receiver combinations in the league. And the way the Patriots' defense has been playing so far, ranked 30th in the pass game, and I believe they're somewhat last in as entire defense goes. So the fact that they were able to hold this high-powered offense to 7 points, and the Falcons didn't score their touchdown until like late in the fourth quarter is pretty much garbage time
touchdown.
I have to give a lot of credit to this Patriots defense for finally waking up and showing that they can stop a high-powered offense, because up until this game, I was not so sure about that. It was almost going to be like Tom Brady's going to have to score 40 points a game for this Patriots team to make it anywhere.
No, I agree with that, and it's funny. Julio Jones scored his first touchdown of the year.
Yeah, first touchdown. We're in week 7, and his first touchdown of the year.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and it came in garbage time. Like, it didn't even matter much. That's been one of the biggest problems. Although there's been a lot of problems with this Falcons offense so far. What is going on with Atlanta? Because I thought they'd come back with a vengeance and just try to dominate the NFL, try to get into the Super Bowl and win it again after what happened last year. They've done the exact opposite and have looked bad. You know what it reminds me of a little bit is when the Cardinals went to the NFC Championship game and then had a bad season last season. A hangover of a big loss, a disappointing loss in the playoffs. Instead of coming out and trying to really play well the next season, the Falcons have disappointed. What's their record? 3-3?
3-3.
Yeah, so maybe they have time, obviously. You have 10 more games during the season. Their division is good, but not great. The Saints have played good, and the Panthers look a little off. But the rest of that division's not too hard to play. Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well, not very good this season. So they can still win some games in their division, but man, they're going to be really struggling for the rest of the season if they play like this against good teams.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think that they're lucky. Their division is not as dominant as we expected.
Imagine if they played in the NFC East.
Yeah. There's no way. The Saints are hit or miss. They can put up 40 points on you, but they can also give up 40 points. So you never know with them. The Carolina Panthers, I thought they were coming on strong. It looked like Cam Newton, to begin the season, was getting better and playing well. And then they kind of throw up a dud, and the Panthers lose to the Bears.
Two in a row.
So it's like, okay, who is this team? We're not really sure yet. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jameis Winston, he's kind of dealing with a shoulder injury, not playing that well, and they end up losing to the Buffalo Bills this week. So this division is wide open, and I would expect the Falcons, because of their offensive firepower, to take over this division at some point. But the way that they looked against the Patriots on Sunday night, I'm not so sure when that's going to be.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's funny that the Saints are in first place, and who would have predicted that 7 weeks into the season? I do think the Panthers will turn it around a little bit, but the Falcons, man, this could be a dogfight for this NFC South, and you wouldn't. Like I said, I would expect the Falcons to be like 14-2, 15-1, or something like that, and just dominate and beat every team. And it's okay to lose to the Patriots too, but not get dominated an entire game. That just can't happen for a Falcons team that everyone thought would play well. It's definitely disappointing.
Very true.
But so let's move on to a team that is not disappointed and has actually exceeded expectations this season. Philadelphia Eagles with another big win. Woo. Monday Night Football, national TV. They played really well. Carson Wentz, once again, with a couple really big plays, some big runs. He avoided that sack amazingly in the fourth quarter. Jared, are the Eagles the best team in the NFL?
Right now, yes, they are. And they proved that not just by beating the Redskins on Monday Night Football, but they've proved that throughout the year. They beat Kansas City. They pretty much dominated almost in every facet of their game so far.
Who's the one team they lost to this season?
I'll have to look that up right now. That would be they did lose to the Chiefs. I'm sorry. That's my mistake, my error. Their one loss was to the Chiefs, and it was a very close game. The Chiefs are a very good team, so you can't really take that and say, oh, this team is bad because they lost to the Chiefs. That was with their one loss. I will say they haven't necessarily had the toughest schedule so far. They've played the Redskins twice. The Redskins are up and down. The Panthers, they beat the Panthers. They beat the Cardinals. They did beat the Chargers, who have now look like a lot better team than they did earlier in the season. No, this Eagles team, it's Carson Wentz's show. It's the Carson Wentz show. And the back-to-back games with 4+ touchdowns. It seems like this receiving core with Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, and even Nelson Aguilar.
And Nelson Aguilar has been playing amazing.
He has, and for a while I thought he was a big bust. He was a first-round draft pick out of USC a couple years ago. And in the first 2 years of his career under Chip Kelly's offense, he wasn't really fitting in. I thought it was actually going to be a perfect match. Chip Kelly's offense is up-tempo, pass, boom, boom, let's go. And I figured that Nelson Aguilar would be able to do well. And he kind of did the opposite. He fell apart. He wasn't able to grasp the offense. But now with their new head coach in place, more of a kind of a slower pace, letting Carson Wentz control the game, I think has really helped not only Aguilar, but these other receivers who are veterans, but it's their first year together. So you would have thought it would have taken some time for these guys to gel, and they've really, from game one, come out and really dominated. And even Carson Wentz in the fourth quarter, that play when he was literally crushed in the pocket, and he was sacked, and he got out of it for a 14-yard run.
Amazing.
It's just the guy's a monster. He can chuck it 80 yards, and right now, not only are the Eagles one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league, I would have to say that Carson Wentz is probably leading the NFL in MVP votes.
I agree with that. I was just about to say the same thing. Now, they do lose Jason Peters.
That's a big loss. Your left tackle.
Yeah, torn ACL, out for the season. He's not coming back. So we'll see how that affects them, too. They do have Lane Johnson at right tackle, so you still have a very, very good lineman there on that line. But losing a guy like that's big for the Eagles. I don't think it will deter them from not making the playoffs or anything.
No.
But I think it might get him some losses, and it might put a little more pressure on Carson Wentz, because he hasn't seen a lot of pressure this season. He hasn't faced a lot of good defensive lines. So we'll see. But the Eagles, you're right, they do look like the best team. The defense has played well, especially that defensive line. I know Monday Night Football made a big deal about this, but the fact that they got about 6 or 7 guys that can rotate into that defensive line, and they all are pretty good players, that's impressive. And that's when you're always putting pressure on a quarterback like that, you're going to get guys off kilter and stuff. And Kirk Cousins, a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. He was flustered and made a couple of mistakes last game, including a big interceptions where his arm was hit by one of those defensive linemen too. So very good for the Eagles. Their offense is stout. Zach Ertz is playing well at tight end. The running game's been solid, and the defense is playing great. I agree with you. I think the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, no, two reasons I think why this defense is playing so well. Number one, you mentioned that defensive line. Their defensive line is made up of first and second round picks, and they've been able to pan out. So when you can do that, draft high on the a certain position, and it's able to pan out, and plus they've got Long on that defensive end as well. So another veteran that can come in, and they can spell guys. They don't need to keep guys in there for 40, 50 plays a game. They can keep guys fresh and just keep them rotating like you mentioned. And I think another thing that does, it helps out the secondary. When you get pressure on a quarterback, whether it's Tom Brady or Josh McCown, it doesn't matter who it is. If you can get pressure in a quarterback's face, it's going to make your defense and your linebackers and your secondary look better because they're not going to have to cover for as long. I don't care if you're Deion Sanders. If you're not going to be able to cover a receiver in the NFL for more than 5 to 6 seconds. So if you don't have a good defensive line that can't get pressure on the quarterback, it's going to make your secondary look weak. But the fact that the Eagles are continuing to get pressure, it's making their entire defense look and play much better.
No, totally. And so let's move on from games from last week. We're going to do a little pick-em section here and pick the games for this week. Couple teams off. I know the Cardinals are off and the Rams are off, so they won't be in this. But so we'll pick the games for this week. We'll start with Thursday Night Football, Dolphins and Ravens. I'm going to pick the Dolphins in this game. I don't know. Do you know if Jay Cutler's going to play in this game?
I don't believe he is. I'm pretty sure they're going to go with Matt Moore. I heard a report earlier this week, I believe it was on Monday, that Jay Cutler has, quote-unquote, multiple broken ribs. And especially the fact that they just played on Sunday and now they'll only get 3 days rest. Multiple broken ribs. I don't see him getting back up and suiting up at 3 days rest.
That's why I'm picking the Dolphins, because I think Matt Moore's a better quarterback. Dolphins win that game against the Ravens.
That would be an upset, my friend.
Yeah.
They're traveling to Baltimore as well, so they do have to travel, and they don't have their starting quarterback, Baltimore.
You got Baltimore. Okay,
Yes.
So let's go Cowboys and Redskins. That's a big game. I'll let you start with that one. That
is a big game. Obviously, the Cowboys had a bye 2 weeks ago, and then this past Sunday came out.
They had another bye this week against the 49ers.
Completely dominated the 49ers. Ezekiel Elliott will be playing in this game against the Redskins this week.
Yes, that's big. That's a good point.
This could potentially be his last game. It depends on how the hearings go. I believe the hearing is set for October 30th. So who knows? If this is his last game, I'm sure he's going to want to come out and feed him the rock and completely try to dominate. I think this is going to be a very, very close game, especially when you're playing a division opponent. Both these teams know each other very, very well. I could see Kirk Cousins coming out and chucking the ball and getting over 300 yards, but I think this Cowboys offense will lead them to a victory. I think the kind of trio of Prescott, Elliott, and Dez Bryant, I think they're going to do very well, and I'm going to give this to the Cowboys.
Both teams 3-3. I think the Cowboys win this by 10 points. I think they're coming off a great week. You mentioned because they have Ezekiel Elliott, it's hard to pick against them. I'm going to go Cowboys as well. It's going to be a good game, though. I like seeing those Redskins-Cowboys games. Vikings-Browns in London. I believe this is a 6:30 start. I'm going the Vikings. There's no way I'm picking the Browns against a potential playoff team.
No, not at all. This is an easy one. Vikings all the way.
Absolutely. Raiders-Bills. I'm going to go Raiders. I think the Raiders have that big win against Kansas City last week on Thursday Night Football where they got a touchdown on the very last play. I think that gave them some emphasis to win more games this season. They also added Navarro Bowman, who played in his first game with the Raiders last week. So I'm going to go Raiders. And the Bills have won too many games that they shouldn't have this season. They're going to lose this week.
Okay, I am actually going to go with the Bills more or less because they're at home and also because Marshawn Lynch is suspended for this game. Mm-hmm. Now, he has not been the Marshawn Lynch that we have expected, nor have we seen so far this season. But the Raiders are now going to be back to their second and third running backs. They're going to split carries between those guys. I don't necessarily trust them against a very, very underrated Buffalo Bills defense, in my opinion. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Bills.
Colts, Bengals. This is an interesting
Two crappy teams.
Yeah, this is not a very good
Just
matchup.
a dud.
We'll watch this game on Sunday. Hopefully the LA market doesn't make us watch it. I'm gonna go Bengals. It's hard for me to pick the Colts because I don't know what they're doing with Andrew Luck, and although Jacoby Brissett has surprised me this season, it's hard for me to pick a team like the Colts. It doesn't look that good this season.
I'm picking the Bengals by default, and really I think the reason why is because after Sunday's game, T.Y. Hilton, the wide receiver for the Colts, came out and in a sense kind of blamed, I'm not sure if he was blaming the offensive line. He came out and kind of blamed some of his teammates for the loss. And so I think there's some type of dysfunction going on in that locker room. Obviously, I think everyone's frustrated because Luck hasn't been able to get on the field. A lot of people thought that he was going to miss, maybe 4 or 5 games, but he was going to be able to come back. Luck had somewhat of a setback in his throwing shoulder that was surgically repaired in the offseason. So who knows when he's coming back. And I think that team is just a little frustrated right now that they don't have their $100 million quarterback there. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Bengals. But I don't have a lot of trust in the Bengals either.
Neither do I. Yeah, it's a tough game to pick. Chargers-Patriots, I'm excited for this game. I think the Chargers play well. I'm going to pick the Patriots by 3. I think the Chargers are going down the field and end up not doing much on their final drive like they usually do. But the Chargers are playing well, and watch out for them to sneak maybe into that AFC playoff picture if they keep winning games. I'm going to go Patriots by 3 by a field goal.
I am going to pick the Patriots as well, but I will give credit to the Chargers. They've definitely played a lot better than I expected this season, and coming off a big shutout win against the Broncos last week, I think they're going to be riding with some momentum going into Foxborough. But with the Patriots and the way that their defense played last week against the Falcons, I think they're also got some momentum rolling, and because they're at home against I'm going to give it to the Patriots.
Bears and the Saints. I'm going to go Bears. I'm going to go an upset. I think the Saints, a lot like the Chargers, have played 2 really good games in a row. I think that ends this week. I think they'll get upset by the Bears. The Bears are a solid team. They're just in a tough division. I think they'll get this game, maybe a walk-off field goal or something like that. But I'm going to go the Bears with the upset.
I was actually going to pick the Bears as well.
Yeah.
Or not actually, I am picking the Bears. I think this is going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I do too.
Both these offenses, I think, can put up points. Obviously, we know Drew Brees and the Saints offense can. And Mitchell Trubisky has played really, really well so far. Last week, pretty much whooped up on the Carolina Panthers. So I think it's going to be in the high 30s, and I'm going to give this one to the Bears. I don't trust the Saints defense at all.
Same with me. Yeah, I agree. Falcons, Jets. I'm going to go the Falcons get redemption. It's hard for me to pick them versus a team like the Jets, especially after you lose to the Patriots. You got to come out with some fire. I think Falcons win by double digits.
Yeah, no, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, I think this week are going to be pretty pissed off by the way that they played against the Patriots last week. And unfortunately, the Jets are going to get the brunt of that.
Absolutely. Eagles, 49ers. I think we both agree the Eagles will win this game.
That's an easy. That's a bye week for the Eagles.
Yeah, bye week for the Eagles. Panthers, Buccaneers. This is an interesting matchup. I think I got to pick the Panthers. There's no way they lose 3 weeks in a row. Cam Newton will come out. He'll play better. I think they'll win by a touchdown.
Cam Newton, you're my fantasy quarterback. You did not do anything for me last week. So
bias pick by Jared.
A little bit. He's going to come out, throw 3 or 4 touchdowns.
There you go.
He's going to be the reason why I win this week. I lost both my fantasy games last week. I need a rebound, Cam Newton. So help me out, my man.
Come on, Cam. Help him out.
Panthers.
Texans, Seahawks. This is a good game.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Seahawks. I think Seahawks win this one. I think they had a little bit of a resurgence since last week. I cannot remember who they beat last week, but I know it was a solid team.
The Seahawks?
Yeah.
They beat the Giants.
They beat the Giants.
That would be a not solid team.
So it was a solid team, so I was wrong. Still, they played good in the game. Their offense had a little more of a resurgence. Their offensive line looked better. I'll go with them. I don't know if you'd call that an upset against the Texans, but I think the Seahawks win that game.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson playing really, really well
I don't
so
want
far.
them to win, by the way. I'm just picking them.
This Houston team is somewhat sneaky. They're 3-3, so just on paper they look middle of the pack. But Deshaun Watson, to me, is somewhat of a Dak Prescott of last year. When Dak Prescott, his rookie year, kind of came on and shocked a lot of people. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's a first-round pick, so he's expected to play better. But I think with Bill O'Brien's offense, with how complicated it is, Deshaun Watson has done a really, really good job of kind of controlling the game, not throwing interceptions, using his legs. But I'm going with Seattle because Seattle's at home.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point about that being home, too. It's hard for anybody to beat them at home.
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football, Steelers and Lions. That's a good game, man. It is a hard one to pick. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to go Steelers. I think they've played well. I think they've figured out their culture a little bit more. They had a couple instances with the national anthem, and then they had guys complaining and stuff like that. Big Ben almost retiring. I think now that's over. I think they get a big win in Detroit this week.
I'm picking the Steelers as well, and it's more because the Lions will be more than likely without Golden Tate, their top wide receiver. Matthew Stafford can definitely chuck it around and make his receivers look better than they actually are. And I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a 3-point game, which the Steelers will win. But I'm also picking them mainly, like I said, because Golden Tate is going to be out.
Absolutely. And then Monday Night Football, final game of the week. Chiefs, Broncos, 2 teams that have sputtered the last couple weeks. I'm going to go Chiefs. I don't see them losing 3 games in a row, and the Broncos do not look good and look terrible against I almost said San Diego Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers, 21-0 victory for the Chargers. I'm going Chiefs. Broncos don't even look like a playoff team anymore.
No, they don't. Chiefs, I think, are going to more than likely, handle this game pretty easily, win by 14, 17 points. The combination of the Chiefs' kind of balanced offense with their solid defense, yeah, I think they easily win this game.
Absolutely. So good pick'em section. We'll be back on the other side of this break. We're going to take a quick break with Do You Care? Fun game we like to play. We'll be back on the Cover 2 podcast.
He is unselfish on the basketball court to a fault. He doesn't talk big. He doesn't strut his stuff. He just plays basketball. Sometimes he doesn't play hard enough for my liking. But this is what LeVar is now doing to this kid. He's going to, and again, then John Wall responded, and he said, I'm going to show no mercy. Well, right now, the father is showing the kid no mercy game after game after game because it's only getting worse. He's just ratcheting up the pressure on a kid who, remember, he had a bad ankle turn that he missed, their last 4 preseason games? Yep. And he's just a kid. So this is all new to him. Right. He's just trying to figure it out on the fly. And now John Wall's coming in to tear him apart because John Wall wants a piece of LeVar Ball.
Colin Kaepernick has been invited by NFL players to attend the next meeting with the owners. NFL spokesman Joe Lockhart said he was unsure if the former NFL QB would in fact attend, but Yahoo's Charles Robinson reports that Cap will attend and players are happy to have him join.
One of Joe's greatest characteristics is how competitive he is. I mean, the kid gets through the Final Four on 2 terrible ankles and played well enough to be the MVP of the Final Four. And yet that competitiveness, he and Theo and one of our managers playing a little video game and he loses, so he punches the door. And I'd love to tell you he was taking a charge and fell back on it, or he blocked the dunk and that's how he broke his hand, but the fact of the matter is it was a silly mistake.
Welcome back to the Cover 2 podcast. Jerry, do you know what time it is right now?
What time is it, Nick?
It's time for Do You Care? Our favorite game here on the podcast where we ask each other whether we care or not about the topic. Jared, we got a couple of good ones today.
Oh, yeah.
Got a couple of stupid stories that have nothing to do really with sports, but they do also at the same time. And we got a couple of serious stories too. So a couple good ones come up here on Do You Care? I will ask the first question to you, Jared. Do you care that UNC's, the University of North Carolina's basketball player, Joel Berry, injured his hand over video games?
I do, and it's because he injured his hand over a video game. He reportedly was playing a video game with one of his teammates and one of the team managers, lost the game, don't know what game he was playing, whether it was Madden or whatever, doesn't matter.
Madden 2K18,
right?
Something like that.
Yeah. Lost the game, and then he decided to punch the door and broke his hand. Now, you are not only one of the best players on your team, but you're one of the best players in the country. Mm-hmm. I believe he's a senior coming back to North Carolina that just won the national championship.
Big-time player.
This team, North Carolina, is obviously supposed to be pretty good. They're dealing with, certain sanctions and that type of thing. Not the best look for the team, but also for you. Like, how dumb are you? You're a Division I athlete, and now you're going to have to miss half of the season at least. Who knows how long he's going to be out with that broken hand. There's no timetable yet, because you lost a video game. Now, there was a lot of people are saying, oh, well, that's just his competitive spirit and his fire in him, blah, blah. Yeah, well, listen, when you're a Division I athlete and, you are the leader of your basketball team, you can't be affording to punch a wall because you lost a game.
Yeah, come on.
A video game. Come on, man. So, he's an idiot. And, he's going to cost his team because I think this is really, really going to hurt North Carolina. Nick, another dumb question for you, in a sense, kind of. Do you care that Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster had his bicycle stolen, but is potentially going to be returned to him?
Someone stole his bike, man. For some reason, this caught onto Twitter because there was video, I believe, on one of the NFL game. Well, the Steelers NFL game. What am I talking about? The Steelers NFL game where they showed Juju Smith showing up to the stadium on his bike. I think he rides to the games there in Pittsburgh, and someone decided to steal his bike. So then there was a Twitter thing about how this doesn't even matter. Okay, why am I even talking about this? I don't care that he got his bike stolen. I hope he gets a new one. It doesn't matter. He's an NFL player. He has millions of dollars. Go get a new bike. Who cares about your bike? Seriously. Okay. Obviously not me. I don't care about his bike. 100%. Jared, do you care that Deshaun Kaiser was partying last Friday?
I do care. Multiple reasons. Number one, you are a rookie quarterback who has got the starting job from Coach Hugh Jackson and the Cleveland Browns. You weren't necessarily supposed to start at the beginning of the year. And you play for the Cleveland Browns, who just suck so far. So the fact that you're going out on a game night and you're out till 1, 2 in the morning, seen partying, and then you come out and you guys lose to the Tennessee Titans 12-9, and all you do is score field goals, I think, yeah, that's going to be somewhat of a big deal. If they came out, scored a couple touchdowns, won the game, I'm sure it probably would have still come up, but it's not a big factor. The fact that they lost, couldn't score a touchdown, and he got benched, yeah, it's gonna be chalked up to you were out at 1 in the morning partying. Now, I'm not saying that veterans should do this because they've had more experience in the league, but you don't see guys really going out the night before the game, till 1, 2 in the morning out partying. And I'm sure it happens, but I think he just needs to be smarter about it, whether he just, has a party at his house or doesn't go out and kind of, get himself in trouble with the media, because right now it's kind of like, oh, okay, where's your mind at? Are you really focused on football, or are you more focused on the popularity and coming out and partying? So
think about this. Ever since Odell Beckham Jr. was taking a picture on that boat, he hasn't won a game and he got injured.
Oh, that's...
So partying's not the best thing to do when you're a young NFL player.
No, not at all. Nick, do you care that Colin Kaepernick has been invited by the NFL Players Association with their meeting with the NFL owners next week?
Yes, I do care a lot, because this needs to happen. There needs to be some dialogue between these owners and Colin Kaepernick, because I do believe they're shutting them out. I don't think it's right that they're shutting him out. There is no reason to shut him out. I get that kneeling during the national anthem is a big deal to a lot of these owners. But to me, it really isn't that big of a deal. Do whatever you need to do before a game, and once you get on the field, as long as it doesn't affect your play, I'm okay with it. I think this is great progress. I know he was invited by the players, not the owners, so not as much progress there, but I do love that they're actually meeting with him. Well, he hasn't accepted the invite yet. Hopefully he does. Let's get some progress on this deal, because this has been the biggest NFL story of the season. Another thing, too, a lot of people have been saying that potentially a good place for Colin Kaepernick to land is the Arizona Cardinals, now that Carson Palmer is out for a significant amount of time. I would not be completely opposed to that, because I don't trust Drew Stanton or Blaine Gabbert as our quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. I think Kaepernick could come in and learn the system very quick. We have a bye week, and then we play the 49ers. So essentially, you could get a win based on not even knowing the playbook against the 49ers, because they're so bad. But I wouldn't be opposed to Colin Kaepernick come to the Cardinals either, because he's clearly the best quarterback out there that we could get. And I think just this meeting and the fact that he's getting more involved and the players are trying to involve him more in the NFL is a big deal. Progress for the whole league and this whole discussion about Colin Kaepernick. Jared, do you care that Dwayne Wade asked not to be a starter anymore?
I don't care. I think that's just Dwayne Wade's character, especially at this point in his career. He's in the back end. He's probably only got a couple more seasons left. He came to Cleveland for two reasons. One, because of LeBron James, and they're pretty much best friends in that relationship. And two, because he wants to win another championship, and he feels that, at least for this season, Cleveland gave him the best chance, or gives him the best chance to win. So if he thinks by him coming off the bench and kind of leading that second unit, if he thinks that's going to be better for the team, then I'm all for it. Like I said, he's not a selfish guy at all. He's not one of those guys that says, "Oh, me. I have to start. I've always started my whole career. I need to get all these stats." He's a team player, so I respect him for saying, "Hey, I'll come off the bench. I'll let J.R. Smith go back and start." And obviously, J.R. Smith, feels more comfortable when he's starting. Feels like he can get into a better rhythm throughout the whole game. So, no, big props to Dwayne Wade. Good for you for kind of taking a step back and being a team player. And I think in the end, this is going to help this team, because it's going to give them a little bit of a spark in the second unit, a guy who can bring the ball up, create his own shot, and help the rest of those teammates for the Cavaliers. Last question for you, Nick. Do you care that Mr. Lonzo Ball is getting tortured by a few of the Washington Wizards teammates, mainly Martin Gortat and John Wall.
Yeah, I do care. This has actually made me want to watch this Lakers-Wizards game because the Lakers haven't been that good. They haven't looked that good this season. Their only wins against the worst team in the league, the Phoenix Suns, who just fired their coach, by the way. And so this is an entertaining, it's almost a hype for a fight. You know, you got a boxing match, you got a UFC fight where you're talking trash to each other. I think it all started with something LeVar Ball said to the Wizards about Gortat, and Gortat shot back, and now John Wall said he was going to terrorize Lonzo Ball in the court today. So today being Wednesday. So yeah, I'm excited about this game. Lonzo hasn't backed down though to all of this pressure so far from the NBA players. A lot of star players and a lot of big defenders said, "Hey, we're going to beat up Lonzo Ball because of what his dad says," and stuff like that. And Lonzo, not only has he took it from Patrick Beverley in the first game. Beverley really got to him and really played rough with him. And now John Wall says he's going to do the same thing. And Lonzo's been talking trash on Twitter to Patrick Beverley. He has not backed down from this John Wall, Marcin Gortat thing. So I think it shows a little bit of a good character with Lonzo Ball, that he's not going to be this rookie that takes stuff from these NBA players. I'm excited to see the whole season because I feel like the whole season is going to be like this as long as the Lakers aren't winning, and they can kind of take advantage of the fact the Lakers aren't that good and they can kind of do this stuff and still win a game. But I love it. I love when you can get physicality involved in some of these games, especially the way the NBA's turned out to be in recent years with the too many fouls, and essentially if guys look at each other wrong, they get technical fouls. I love to see beef before a game. Even though there's a World Series game tonight, I'm definitely going to tune into that Wizards-Lakers game for sure. That finishes off our Do You Care segment. We're going to go to the final segment of the day, some college football talk. USC disappointed the hell out of me and Jared this weekend, and another big matchup coming up this week. Probably the best game of the college football season. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break.
JT Barrett has been playing at Ohio State for, I think this is his 16th year, maybe going on 17. One of the most successful quarterbacks in school history, if not the most. And one of the most successful quarterbacks in Big Ten history and nationally. I mean, you got to just completely respect everything that guy's been able to do in his career, and everything I know about him and have heard about him. He's a class act.
Let's move to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Jim Harbaugh is taking some heat after Wolverines lost to Michigan State 14-10 at home. Harbaugh is now just 1-4 against Michigan's two biggest rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State, and Wolverine fans are starting to vent their frustrations with the coach.
Largest margin of victory in the series in a half century for the Irish. Notre Dame 49, USC 14.
Back on the Cover 2 podcast for the final segment of the show, where Nick and I will be talking about a little college football, talking about a major upset that happened this past Saturday between one of the local hometown teams. And then we're going to be talking about some of the bigger matchups happening this weekend. One in particular that we both think is probably one of the best matchups, going to be one of the best matchups of the year. But let's get started with the very disappointing USC Trojans getting blown out by Notre Dame this past weekend. Nick, I want to get your initial thoughts on this game and just what happened.
Dude, I don't even know. I mean, I was actually at the UCLA game this weekend, so I didn't get to see. I was driving home most of the USC game. When I got home, it was already a blowout. From what I've heard and from just based on highlights, USC, here was the problem, okay? This entire season, they haven't played up to the standard that everyone had thought they would. It's why they lost to Washington State, and that's why they were barely beating teams like Texas, and they were barely beating teams like Western Michigan, and they even struggled a little bit against Oregon State. It finally hit them against a good Notre Dame team. Notre Dame came out and hit them straight in the mouth and beat them 49-14. At one point, it was 35-0. At halftime, it was 28-0. Just an utter disappointment from a USC team that was supposed to be a national title contender. This completely puts that out the door. Super disappointing. It does, in fact, though, put Notre Dame into the national title picture now. They have a schedule, or they have that open schedule because they're an independent team. I believe they play a big game against North Carolina State this week, another ranked team, so they do have another reason to move up in the rankings. But Notre Dame, they go from a team that I did not think would make the national championship to a team that actually really might. And USC goes from a team that should have made the national championship this year, or at least the Final Four, and is absolutely not gonna this year.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from this game is the fact that USC now with those 2 losses has pretty much eliminated themselves from that Final Four playoff. You pretty much, it's almost guaranteed that you are not going to get into that playoff with 2 losses unless those losses are against top-ranked opponents and they're very, very close. But the fact that they got blown out by a Notre Dame team who has been very, very underrated, started the year unranked, and now they, I believe, have moved up. Are they in the top 10?
Number 9, yeah.
Number 9, yeah.
now.
So they moved up all the way from unranked to number 9. I think you just have to give credit to this Notre Dame team. The USC Trojans turned the ball over 3 times. Sam Darnold had 1 interception. He had a fumble lost. And then I believe it was in the first or the second quarter, Notre Dame was punting the ball away, and the returner for USC, Jones, fumbled the ball and really gave Notre Dame the ball at like the 7-yard line. So I think it was just a combination of the turnovers and the fact that Notre Dame was just very, very well balanced was the reason why they won. Just looking at the stats, USC rushed 31 times for 76 yards. That's less than a two-yard average per game. That is unacceptable, especially for a team that likes to kind of somewhat be balanced. But when you have Ronald Jones only carrying the ball for 32 yards, that's pretty pathetic in my opinion. I think, I'm not saying that's on the play calling. I think it's this offensive line, and I think these players need to step up and play better, because so far, like you mentioned, throughout the season, even in their wins, they haven't really looked dominant. Some of the wins they've kind of had to skate by. They've been down and had to kind of fight back. Just most notably against Texas. So it's just one of those seasons where it's like they have such high expectations. Sam Darnold kind of coming in as the unheralded, just front runner for the Heisman, going to be the number 1 overall draft pick. USC starting off in the top 5. All this smoke being blown up USC, and they just didn't live up to it. Now, listen, I'm not saying this season is a loss because they're 6-2, and it's not like they're 1-5, but they have not played as well as they should have. And because of those 2 losses, like I said, they are now they're more likely to get a bowl game, but they're not going to get that Final Four.
Yeah, the problem is I'm going to disagree with you that a little bit. I do think this season is a loss at some point, because when you win the Rose Bowl against a team like Penn State that now is showing they were one of the best teams in the nation last year, they have lost their same players. You beat a Penn State team in the Rose Bowl, you need to get to the Final Four. And this is disappointing. They're now ranked number 21. Just to show you the fact that they're not going to get all the way down to 4 unless everybody starts losing the game, which is not going to happen. So this USC team, they've disappointed. I also want to put, you said that you don't think it was play calling. I do think it was play calling. I think the play calling has been awful most of the season, and Sam Darnold has been the reason they've escaped some of these games. It's one of the reasons Sam Darnold's an NFL draft pick. Sam Darnold has single-handedly won games for USC this season. This season could be a lot worse if they didn't have Sam Darnold as quarterback. I think the play calling has been bad. I think Clay Helton has not lived up to what everyone thought he was as a head coach. And the defense obviously didn't play well either, giving up 49 points to a Notre Dame team that wasn't necessarily an offensive juggernaut. So an overall disappointing game for USC. They have to get back on the wagon. I believe they play Arizona State at ASU. ASU's been great this season. They already upset Washington.
Just beat Washington.
That's a tough game. So if they can win that game, I'm going to have a little more hope. But, it's starting to look like the Pac-12 now is a free-for-all. Pretty much anybody could get into the Pac-12 championship game, and it's going to be a dogfight for most of these teams the rest of the season. But USC, totally disappointed. I think, Jared, you agree with me on that for sure.
Big time.
So let's move on to another big game this weekend, probably the better game than the USC-Notre Dame game. Was Penn State versus Michigan. This was Jim Harbaugh's chance to really put the Michigan program out there for a chance at the national title, and they did exactly the opposite of that and kind of got crushed by Penn State 42-13, excuse me. Penn State pretty much was in control most of this game. Saquon Barkley, another good game. It's almost a situation where you lock the Heisman up with him already. Trace McSorley, a great game too. Penn State's, this is more of a thing about Penn State just being really good this season. I think they're going to have a really good chance to Final Four. We'll talk about the game this week, which we tagged as probably the best game in college football. But Penn State's legit, and Michigan is not legit, and I kind of was calling this earlier this season.
No, they are. I expected Michigan to come out with a little more fight, but I'm looking at Penn State stats. McSorley not only threw for 282 yards and a touchdown, he ran for 76 yards and had 3 touchdowns rushing.
Jeez.
Against a pretty good Michigan defense. Now, the problem with Michigan, and we've been saying this all year long, is their offense.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of dumbfounded because you have Jim Harbaugh, who is an offensive guru known for pretty much taking quarterbacks and building them into these NFL elite stars. And I'm not saying that O'Korn isn't that guy because he is very young, and this is kind of he wasn't expecting to play this year. And obviously with the injury to their starting quarterback, who is more than likely out for the year with a shoulder injury, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he's coming back. But O'Korn, they kind of just threw him into the fire because they had to, and he hasn't been able to get this offense going at all. With all the talent and all the recruiting that this Michigan team has been able to do in the last couple of years, being in the top 5 in recruiting, I'm very, very surprised by the lack of offensive firepower that they have had. And it's the reason why this team is losing. Obviously, when you give up 42 points, that's not good, but I'm not going to put this game on the Michigan defense. I'm putting it on the offense because they can't even put up 20 points. I think that's pretty pathetic, like I said, for a Jim Harbaugh offensive unit that should be able to put up more points than that. So, Michigan, I don't really know what to do with this team going into the year. They were, one of the candidates for being in the top 4 in the playoff spots.
Oh, totally.
And now there's no way that this team has. They're almost like USC.
Just like USC's, exactly.
There's no way that this team is going to make it. But listen, good for Penn State. This team right now looks like the closest thing to challenging Alabama.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Penn State, this quarterback running back combo. Is got to be the best in college football so far. And like I said, Saquon Barkley putting a case for the Heisman Trophy this year, and Trace McSorley also doing a fine job himself. But let's move on. Penn State does not get a week off this week. They don't get a bye. They don't get Purdue. They get Ohio State. I believe this game is in the Big House too.
In Ohio.
Ohio Stadium in Columbus. This is the game of the year so far. Penn State-Ohio State, number 2 versus number 6. Just trying to tag it. I'm trying to up it as much as I possibly can. This is a great game. And this is Penn State. Hey, if you want a chance at the national championship, I think if they win this game, you're almost automatically in it. Because if you were to beat Michigan and and Ohio State in the season, that's more likely going to get you in, even if they have one loss. But I can't wait for this game. Can you?
No, it's going to be a very good game. And right now I have to lean towards Penn State because of how dominant they've been playing. But I'm not going to count out Ohio State. They do have one loss on their record, and that was to Oklahoma. Bad loss at home. But Ohio State still has a lot of firepower. Obviously, JT Barrett, the leader of this offense. I think he's going to be the reason why they win or they lose.
Glad you said that.
It's going to be on him. And listen, for all the firepower that Ohio State has, it's going to come down to JT Barrett. Is he going to be the guy that's going to use his legs, run, throw for a touchdown or two, and keep the offense on the field? Or is he going to make bad mistakes, throw the ball away, and in a sense pretty much give the game to Penn State? So I think that's what this game will come down to. But right now, because of the way that Penn State played last week against Michigan and throughout the year, I have to lean towards them.
I'm glad you brought up JT Barrett. I was saying that because although I just pumped up Penn State, if they were to win this game, they're going to go to the national championship for sure. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ohio State pulls out the upset. JT Barrett has played very, very good against everybody since they lost to Oklahoma this season. And I think JT Barrett will be the reason Ohio State wins this game. It's at home. I think because Penn State had the home field advantage against Michigan, that also was a big take in the fact that they were able to win that game last week. I think it was 112,000 people at that game last Saturday.
Unreal.
Ridiculous. You're going to have another 100-something thousand at this game as well, except it's going to be almost all for Ohio State. I have Ohio State upsetting them in this game. I see it a close game coming down to the last couple plays. Plus, Penn State could have lost the game earlier this season as well to Iowa, so it's not like they've been perfect this season also. Another big thing I want to mention too, no matter what happens in this game, the rankings are going to finally come out. The college football rankings, the committee is going to make their decision next Tuesday, I believe. So we're finally really going to have and see what the committee really thinks about about how good these teams. But how big of a loss do you think it would be for Penn State to lose this game to Ohio State?
I don't think it would be huge as long as they don't get blown out. Listen, Ohio State is a very, very good team. They've only had one loss, like we mentioned, to Oklahoma. Ohio State could potentially get in the top 4. I don't think they're going to, but they're not out of it yet. So if Penn State comes out and loses this game by 3 points or 7 or 10 or something like that, and it's relatively close, and they're in the game for the most part, I think Penn State's going to be fine. I think they will still be in the top 5 of the committee's rankings, and I think they're still going to have a legit shot to get to the Final Four. If Penn State comes out and throws up a goose egg, or they completely get annihilated, I think that will then change the committee's mind a little bit. And then, like I said, I think it's a good thing about having a 13-person committee as opposed to a computer, to where they can say, okay, listen, even though they lost, they still played well. It was a close game, as opposed to, they got blown out. Maybe there's something wrong with this team. So I don't think there's going to be a blowout. I think that's where we do disagree. I do think Penn State will win this game, a very, very close game. But yeah, no, even if they do lose, this isn't going to hurt Penn State's chances too much, in my opinion.
How far do you think they would drop if they were to lose?
If it's a close game, I'm going to say they're still going to be in the top 5. I would say they would drop to 4 or 5, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, what's crazy about the Big Ten this year is you got Penn State at number 2 right now, just in current AP top 25 rankings. Wisconsin at number 5, and Ohio State at number 6. So you got a couple legit teams. More than likely, the Big Ten is going to have 1, maybe 2 teams in this Final Four. You got to think Wisconsin's probably going to play the winner of this Ohio State-Penn State game in that Big Ten championship as well. So the Big Ten, they're going to have a good year this year. But I'm glad to see the rankings finally come out, because I'm sick of seeing the AP poll, because a lot of it doesn't make sense. So we'll see where maybe USC, if they move down, or if they're pushed up in the rankings. We'll see where Notre Dame is. We'll see if Oklahoma is up a little closer, Clemson. We'll even see if Ohio State, even if they win, are even in the Final Four. So very interesting college football coming up this weekend. We got 3 minutes left. Do you have a final thought for the day, Jared?
My final thought is actually going towards this LA Lakers-Washington Wizards game tonight. Okay. And I wanted to mention it during the Do You Care segment. I think all this hoopla, and you have to agree with me, is because of LeVar Ball.
100%.
LeVar Ball came out earlier
100%.
this week pretty much at the Wizards and said, you guys better beware. I'm not sure if he said Lonzo or if he said the Lakers aren't losing anymore this week. So that was pretty much the reason why Gortat and Wall came out and said something about Lonzo. But I think it's going to be a really, really fun matchup to watch. Even I think Washington's going to beat the Lakers, but I think it's going to be a really, really good test for Lonzo to go up against another elite point guard and see how he fares. Obviously, both of these guys can score, and John Wall is one of the fastest point guards in the league, going from court to court. So I think Lonzo Ball having to guard John Wall and not being able to take plays off on defense, I think it's going to really show, okay, can this guy play both ends? Because in college, obviously it was his scoring ability that was just completely dominant. In the NBA, it's a little bit more, man-to-man. Hey, listen, we're going to need you to lock this guy down, right? Obviously, at certain points of the game, you can play more team defense. But if it's a close game and they say, hey, we need a big stop, Lonzo Ball is going to have to step up. And I'm interested to see if he can do that against a really good elite point guard.
It's going to be very interesting. My final thought is a couple really good Pac-12 football games. All of the teams that are in the hunt for the Pac-12 championship game are actually playing each other this weekend. You have UCLA at Washington. UCLA is still with a chance in the South. Washington obviously leads the North. Washington State plays U of A. U of A has had a resurgence. They're one of the better teams in the South. Washington State obviously with a chance in the North. And then USC, ASU, which I think is the best game in the Pac-12 this week. That's a game to watch for sure because ASU, they played really good this season. They apparently that game is already sold out against USC. USC coming off a big loss as well, like we talked about to Notre Dame. And we'll see if they can have a little resurgence. But it's cool to see the Pac-12 have a couple really big games involving their teams for the playoff. Do you hear the music right there? Enter Sandman's going to start to play. That is the end of the podcast. Jared, I hope next time we're on the podcast, that we're either talking about Game 7 of the World Series or we're talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series, because I'm super excited. I can't wait to see the rest of this playoffs go for the Dodgers and to see this World Series go. For Nick Neenan,
I'm Jared Smith.
And this has been the Cover 2 Podcast.